Turn on that radio and back here. The cops ain't likely to catch up with us, not tonight. So we can all be quiet and peaceable and listen to the music.
This episode of Auto Dealer Live is brought to you by TrueCar.
All right, man. What's up, Dave Cribbs? What's up, my friend?
What's happening, Mr. Villa?
Oh, man, I can't complain. I'm having a great day. And a little more ears, Lou, when you get a second. I can't hear my ears at all. Yeah, man, can't complain. I'm having a great day, man. Great month. Great closeout to the year. How about you?
I'm doing great. I feel the same way. You know, I have so much anticipation for 2018. I know we only have a few days left, and
right.
I'm still doing things, but there's so many things that look great about 18.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And 2018 is it's funny because every year, we talk about, every year people talk about New Year's resolutions. They talk about, moving it from the old into the new and switching out, like switching out the ears, stuff like that, right? Do you hear that? Right. I try so hard, man, for OCD. Yeah, it is better, I guess. Thank you, Lou. But, moving out from the old into the new. And, we talk about that every year. And I think that it becomes, it becomes commonplace if we're not careful. And, we do these things called New Year's resolutions. And I think that if you look up the word resolution, I guess the root with that would be resolute, right? I'm going to resolve, or be resolute, steadfast. I think of in my determination and my discipline. That's really what I think it means. A lot of times we just look at it as like a promise I'm going to make myself and what have you. And we use, as humans, new beginnings. And I think that's where 2018 is coming in. And we need that. But, I want to stick to some resolutions. And my resolutions or the things that I'm resolute or I'm resolving in myself, Dave, to do, they're not just like, I want to lose weight or I want to eat healthier. They're not just things like that you want to start. They take up and encompass the whole year. They make up the entire year. Like there is a plan or blueprint that I think that you need to see, that you have to visualize for the year 2018. And guess what? There are some things, I'm gonna say this to you guys listening, there are some things that you can't carry from 2017 into 2018. If you've got some baggage on your back, listen, if you've got some big things ahead of you in 2018, which I believe there's some folks watching. If you have some big things ahead of you and you're watching right now, I want you to give me some hearts and some likes. If you have some big things that you're expecting to come to fruition in the year of 2018, I would say that if that describes you, then there's some things that you can't carry. There's some baggage that you can't carry and some weights that you can't carry with you. There's not room for where you're going by carrying what you have. We try to populate our destiny with our past accomplishments.
Come on.
That's pretty good.
It's funny that you bring that up because that's kind of how I was consciously thinking about this over the next couple of weeks, thinking about that idea of, hey, usually the resolutions wrap around what we're going to do, all the things that we're gonna resolve to do, like you said. But it's just as important to think about the things we're not going to do, the things that we're going to eliminate. And so you're right on with what I've kind of been going through my head in the last couple of weeks. And then another thing, it's funny that, again, how you kind of started the conversation, but, thinking a little bit differently about your New Year's resolution, not just coming to every January 1st and saying, okay, I'm going to do this, and this, and then, a few months into it, that kind of fades out. But I think, if you're someone who's driven and you're growing each year, what you're doing with those resolutions is instead of just saying, I'm going to check this, you begin to fine tune things.
Yeah.
You begin to say, look, I know how to do this. I'm good at doing this. Now I need to perfect my execution by these things that are, and here's my word, by the way, for 2018.
Uh-oh.
Intentional.
Intentional.
I want to be very intentional.
Intentional.
I want to be very
Hey,
intentional.
Lou, take us down a little bit in the ears
Yeah,
now.
thank you, Lou.
Now they're on, and our ears are very hot.
There we go.
All right, so we changed the studio up a little bit. If you guys like it, hopefully you'll like it, and changed the set a little bit. Got some new screenage, a new desk. Moving this thing, it looks really cool inside as well. And so we had to, everything's been unplugged and replugged in. So a little bit of things to work through. But Dave, intentional. So talk to me about that, man. You want to be intentional, and we're going to be intentional here. We're going to bring our guest on. You guys, we have a great show today. This is going to be something you want to share, and you want to get everybody in the automotive industry. I know that we're closing out our year and closing out our month. Believe me, you walked off of your sales floor, so to speak, right? The street came in today. I walked off our literal sales floor here at IPD into the studios to do this show for you live today, Thursday, right? And then our month here closes tomorrow. Your month closes, I guess, Saturday. The year closes out. So believe me, I know this is an important time, the busiest week in the car business, and we're doing a show today. But today's show is worth the time that we can carve out. And so, Dave, let's talk about, and make it intentional. Don't just listen, right? Don't just listen, but listen intentionally. So talk about it. Intentional living. What does it mean? Moving into 2018. How can I be intentional?
Thank you. I appreciate that, Dave. So, I want to be intentional, and I'll just give one example. I also wrote down calendaring. So I'm going to be intentional about my calendar. In other words, I'm going to examine and look at where I'm going to place myself physically, mentally, emotionally each day. And what does it make sense? Does it make sense for me to invest my time here? Does it make sense for me to be here? I want to fill that calendar intentionally, Dave, with what I know will add a result. By placing myself there. So that's just one example in calendaring intentionally.
Okay, so then I love that, and I'm writing the word calendar down because when you said that, I was reminded. And if you're watching this, we're moving into 2018, and there's something you can't get back, right? And there's something you can't get more of. When you max out your time, people talk about time management. And I don't really, I think that's kind of, that statement doesn't make as much sense as a lot of people think it does. I don't think you can manage time. I think you have to maximize your time.
Yep.
I'm going to say that again. You can't really manage time. You have to maximize your time. You only get a certain amount of time. And I think there's some important things. I know that sleep's important. Some people, you can't go, hey, I'm going to manage my time by just working more because, the reality is we're foolish if we don't get the proper amount of sleep. Because the reality is, you and I need the rest. We're not fallible, okay? I'm sorry, we're not infallible. We're fallible. We break down in food, and sleep matters. But calendar is important, or maximizing your time, because there may be some appointments that you need to cancel. There may be some things, somebody told me a long time ago, somebody that mentored me at a season of my life spoke into this word or this thought into me. Said, look, I measure things every year, and sometimes even quarterly, even monthly, and maybe even weekly and daily. There's things that you need to look at, but at least monthly or quarterly, you need to look at things, and obviously minimally at a year, and go, hey, what can I eliminate? What is not generating an ROI that's worth keeping? What's not generating a return on investment? Some people say, I'm not getting an ROI. That's not true. You get an ROI on anything that you do.
Yeah.
What is that return on your investment?
Yeah, and it's funny, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was just thinking, I hope that our audience understands that when we say, calendaring and what's going to give me the result, what's going to give me an ROI, taking a strong look at that, it's not just money, it's not just monetarily, it's family, it's different
Absolutely.
things. So, but being intentional about what you're going to calendar to make sure you're getting the result that you want every day.
Absolutely. All right. So listen, we're gonna go to break here in just a second, right? We're gonna go to break now, Lou. All right, we're gonna go to break. We're gonna come right back. We have a great panel. We're gonna be talking. This is episode 304 of Auto Dealer Live. Last episode of 2017. Hey, 2018 is gonna be a huge year here at ADL. We have some new sponsors coming on and joining us as well. Some new partners, and it's gonna be incredible. We got a great gig coming up at Digital Dealer in April, and you don't want to miss that. We are doing something unprecedented. You're gonna hear it here right now first. And came up with this concept with the Digital Dealer crew. Going to be keynoting the opening keynote at Digital Dealer. And what we're going to do is we're going to have 10 dealers and owners and operators. These aren't just GMs and GSMs, nothing wrong with that, but these are 10 cutting edge dealers from around the nation that are going to be on a town hall panel. This is not going to be a 4-3 panel. This is going to be the first time you're going to see other conferences now do this because it's a great idea, and we collaborated this together, but this is going to be a town hall stair-step panel of 10 dealers. The opening keynote at Digital Dealer in Orlando, Florida, April 10th, I believe it begins. And you don't want to miss this. Cutting edge dealers are going to be on this panel. And we're going to open the questions up to the town hall, to the audience. We're going to take your questions from ADL in the previous first quarter shows coming up. We're going to carry those into the discussions, which we'll announce in the next couple of weeks. And we're going to have 3 different blocks of topics, Dave, 20 minutes per session. And we're going to bring your questions to these dealers, and we're going to have an open discussion in front of the live audience. It's going to be amazing, and that's going to happen in April 2018 at Digital Dealer in Orlando. And Dave, it's going to be a great show today, though.
I love it. I love it. I mean, the lineup that we have on today's show is great. And stay tuned, because we're going to be addressing something we've never talked about on the show today, a very innovative new pilot program, if you will, in one of the dealerships that you can't miss it.
Yeah.
You have to stay tuned.
Yeah, don't go anywhere, because we're going to, right after the break, we're going to be back with Kevin Fry, Jay Lasco, Frank Lopes, and Brad Pascal, and we're going to be talking about something, as Cribb said, that's really a game changer in the auto industry, and it's coming from the Weiler Automotive family. And Kevin Fry is here today to break this news and talk about it a little bit. So we'll be right back right after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Chip Perry. The pledge was and is an action plan designed to address head-on the concerns that many of you told me about right after I took this job. Thus far, our dealer pledge has been aimed at fixing the major pain points that you told us about related to our product, our customer service, and our consumer advertising. I'd like to reiterate that our dealer pledge is our ongoing commitment to you, our dealer customers, and we will continue to work hard to improve our service to you.
All right, we're going to bring this panel right on. We're going to go ahead. No hesitation, Dave. No further ado. All right, without further ado, right, we have Kevin Fry, e-commerce director at Jeff Weiler Automotive Family, no stranger to the show, and we have Jay Lasco, vice president at Grand Blanc Mitsubishi, a part of the Lasco Automotive Family. His brother Matt has been on the show as well many times. We have Frank Lopes, Vice President of Forrest and Blake Marketing out of Jersey. Frank Lopes also, Get More Frank, you must have heard of that. Brad Pascal, the Senior Account Director at Stream Companies. And gentlemen, thanks for joining us. And I know this is the last week of the month, extremely busy time. And but we're going to talk about some really cool, groundbreaking things that Weiler Automotive's doing. And Cribbs, I'm going to throw it to you, man, because I know you've been itching to kind of get into this discussion a little bit.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm really excited about this today. So let's go right over to Kevin Fry. And Kevin, tell us just a little bit about this new program that you've implemented at your store, this option that you have for potential buyers.
Yeah, essentially imagine it this way. You have one payment, but you have access to an entire garage of cars to choose from that are within our fleet. That payment includes access to any of those cars. It includes your insurance. It includes your maintenance and your service, car washes, as well as roadside assistance. And basically, you have the perfect car for every occasion, and it's not a traditional purchase. It's not a lease. You can go in and go out as you see fit. You can pause the service. At the end of the day, what we're doing is providing a consumer-facing mobility solution for our customers, and we're excited to be the first in our market to do that.
Dave, real quick, before you go to your question, let me just remind everyone who's watching on social media, because there are a lot of questions for this particular topic that we're talking about now with Kevin Fry from the Weiler Group. If you have a question, go ahead and ask it on social media and let us know. We'll make sure that we get your question in. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Well, and yeah, thank you so much, Kevin. And man, this is really, thank you for coming on today. And I know it's a busy week for you as well and talking about this. And so, I don't think there is a lot of typical, visual downside. I know there's some concerns and some things, challenges, and I know Jay has a couple of things I think he was going to maybe bring up as well, from a different perspective. But I'm looking at this, and you call it here flipping from car to car, schedule a flip. And, I guess a couple of questions, some things that, I would ask, this is, do you see this as is something that could eventually even go from state to state? I'm looking at it as it almost like makes you think of like a rent-a-car in some way. But then for someone who travels, is there even other other branches of this that can really extend out? And really, where did this idea come from? Is there a demand for something like this? Is this more of an experiment? Has there been some
models?
Yeah, some models, or maybe some investigation into this type of a process. Talk a little bit about that, Kevin, and where this came from. First of all, because it makes sense. And anyone can see that the benefit to it from the surface, but where do you think the need for this is driven?
Well, I want to clarify a couple things. The software platform that we're using to drive this is powered by Clutch out of Atlanta, and this was a startup. It's been developed across the last 3 years to build the platform to accommodate what we're trying to accomplish. There's just a few of us dealers that have initiated this automotive subscription. There's no instruction book. There's no preset model of how you're going to be profitable. In fact, I think each one of us are doing it differently. So we are way out on the cutting edge to figure out how this works. But what they've done down in Atlanta has really been insightful. And I'm going to share with you just one example of something that has us intrigued. They're finding that their subscribers are flipping in and out of vehicles on average 2.5 times per month. And every time they do that, they're meeting, for the most part, personally with that subscriber. They're talking to them about that vehicle. They're learning more about them as a person and their habits and how they can best accommodate them. Now, think about this from this angle. Right now, as a dealer, in a time where loyalty, OEM loyalty and brand loyalty is at its lowest, we are thrilled if we can get one of our customers into the dealership 4 times a year. And the blunt reality is we're thinking that when we do that, the salesperson's going to go back and interact with that customer. And I'll tell you 9 times out of 10 that's not happening. What happens when you take a customer and you're personally touching them 2.5 to 3 times per month, every month of the year? That's just one of the angles that we're looking at this and really creating a personal consumer-facing experience while building loyalty in our brand, which is the Jeff Wyler brand.
Kevin, I just love that we're having this conversation, and I have lots of questions, but I believe that probably some will come out from our guests. So let's go to Jay Lasco, and Jay, weigh in with comments or questions about the program.
Well, I chatted, briefly with Lou about this just off my hip, and you have to almost try to not fall down the wormhole, is what I call it, when you talk about a subject like this, because I think there's just so many questions and so many ideas. The big thing that I focus on first is each individual marketplace. I mean, we talk state to state, and I was looking up some percentages, and, in 2016, the lease penetration in Michigan was all the way up to 64%, highest in the country. And then you look at like Georgia, for instance, that I think was all the way down at like 9%, and many other states down in the single digits that haven't adapted leasing, which is growing and obviously has really taken off in states. So you still can't convince the consumer to do something as simple as we all know as leasing when we're in the industry. But there's the marketplace alone. I couldn't help but look on Wyler's page there, and it says, who's eligible, and it says anyone 21 years or over with a valid license or a clean driving record. But the first thing that comes to mind in my marketplace is credit. I mean, I know for a fact that I'm not going to be handing these cars out to anybody without checking credit, and I think a lot of them aren't going to be eligible if credit history comes into play. I look at it as bridging a gap. I think that people, the rental industry has been doing rental cars forever, and it's mainly per day, maybe weekly, not many monthly, and it's like we're bridging this gap between renting and that long-term commitment of leasing that usually isn't less than 24 months. And I'm very intrigued by it. I think that it's more of a premium service. I think that anytime a manufacturer or anybody tries to sell something a different way, they're definitely not doing it to make the same or less amount of money. They're looking to add something to their marketplace or not lose. And I take Panera, for instance, that's added all these crazy ways to buy food. I mean, you can do it through an app. You can walk in and pick it up in a door. You can drive through the drive-through. They'll deliver it to a local business within a mile. And I don't know if they gained anybody as much as they're making sure they don't lose anybody because they're trying to look for convenience.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, Jay brings up some good points there. I'm sure you probably have some comments before we go to Frank and Brad, and I'm sure they have as well. Just off the surface like that, Kevin, I mean, when you're looking at credit, the first thing that came to my mind, we were talking a little bit right as the show was getting ready to start, Cribs, here. And another thing that came to my mind is, back in the day, I've been married almost 25 years, and I wasn't well off when I got married. Matter of fact, I was the opposite. And my wife and I, we frequented the rental to own places. When you wanted a new TV when you were 20 years old, and you went and rented one and paid like 80 grand for it. But my mind goes to that process. And do you open up the door to possibly a rent to own kind of mentality or that type of customer, Kevin? And, or is it more specialized like Jay was talking about as a premium? Weigh in on some of those comments, because I know that you're piloting this, and I don't think there can really be a bad way. I don't think there's anything negative about it if it's done by an excellent group such as yours. But when people are commenting on it and maybe want to look at this as something that could help them in the future, these are some of the concerns that the wrong dealer could give it a really bad name very fast.
So you guys are giving me a whole bunch of questions here, but I'll try and address a few.
You're good, man. You're ex-military.
Really, the primary driving thing in the application is the insurability, because we're insuring the driver, not the metal, and we need to make sure that you have a good driving record. From a credit standpoint, you're going to be getting billed on your credit card. If you don't pay, you're going to be out of the program. Further, there's a telematics device on every car. So if you pull, let's say, for example, a Dodge Challenger and decide to start driving that thing 120 miles an hour every day, or decide to become an Uber driver with that vehicle, we're going to see that as well. So managing the subscribers on that, I don't think is going to be as difficult as you think.
Okay.
In terms of, comparing it to a rental and things to that nature, I'm going to agree that it's more of a premium thing out of the gate. Whenever you look at an innovative product or service, you need to take advantage of the irrationality of the early adopters. And I don't mean that as condescending in any way, shape, or form. But the great example I would give you is when HD TVs come out. I bet everybody on this call had a friend, that first person that bought the HD TV for about $9,000 because they wanted to be the first one to get it. There's some reality with these new solutions as we're rolling out more upper tier and we're trying to figure out to make the models work. But I'm going to say on the other side, I have not met anyone that is doing this that doesn't become a firm believer and incredibly excited. And I think the best way to display that is to give you a couple examples of flips that I went on. I went to one where we had a gentleman, a business owner. You just use your cell phone and you mark that I want to swap out to a vehicle. You can designate where. You can do it at work. You can do it at home. You can do it in a restaurant, parking lot, you name it. What happens on our end with the concierge is on their app, they get the next vehicle, they clean it up, they preset the radio stations, the seat. When we went to the parking lot of this guy's business, there's a checklist in the phone that says we need to move his garage door opener, his parking pass, whatever the case may be. And then they'll often, what we find most times, they'll come down and talk to you. So this guy had a truck. It was a Silverado that had probably around 17,000 miles, and it was absolutely covered with mud. It was so muddy that when we drove it back, it was out of balance. And so we asked him, what did you think of the truck? Why did you get the truck? And his answer was, you know what, I've got hunting property. I wanted to get a truck to do that. I've been hunting the last 3 days. It's all dirty, but I sure appreciate you guys swapping out, cleaning it up. So we were giving him a GMC Yukon. And I said, so why are you swapping to a GMC Yukon? And he said, because I'm getting ready to pick up my grandkids. We're heading down to Florida for the weekend. The reality is, rather than being locked in one car, you're getting the perfect car for every occasion. And not only that, from a dealer perspective, as we personalize the process and learn more about our subscriber, if we just happen to know that it's their anniversary coming up this weekend, maybe we give them a free upgrade to a Porsche or something, have a special night with their wife. It's just different things like that. You just keep personalizing. There's a lot of machine learning going on in the background to provide an experience that cannot be given with the other things we do today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate that, Kevin. Those are all great points. Let's.
Can I ask you something, Dave?
Sure.
Before
right
you
ahead.
go to
right
Frank
ahead.
and go to Frank and Brad, but I want to maybe throw something into the dynamic.
Absolutely.
And I agree. By the way, Ed Brooks said something, and I feel this way in everything I do that's worthwhile. And don't look for reasons to not do it. Look for the opportunity. So I mean, it's an idea. And when you look at today's society, where we get bored very easy, or we like change. I mean, there's obviously a market for it. But let's go to our next. Maybe let's go to our next guest. Maybe introduce what are some challenges that we could face. Because let's look at this. We're the car business, and not everybody operates like the Weiler Automotive Group, or for that matter, Lasco as well. I mean, Jay and Matt could pull something like this off because they do things with excellence. But Frank and Brad, they know that this is the car business, and I could see things, for instance, not maintained down the road, and then somebody's looking for a car and it not be, quote, available. Oh, I really don't have that availability. And it begins to not make enough money, and all of a sudden becomes a stepchild, but you got members in it, and it could actually give you bad press. I can see a lot of things going awry if it's not operated or maintained properly. But what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, and Kevin kind of alluded to the fact that, hey, there's no like written out playbook just yet, right? So it is something they're going to walk through, but at the end of the day, it sounds like they're willing to take a gamble on facing some of those challenges based on what they feel the benefits are. I have a lot of questions still, but I'm going to go ahead and go to Frank Lopes. And Frank, welcome, and thanks for hanging in there. And go ahead and weigh in with any thoughts or questions with Kevin.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on today. I'm very happy that I'm on this show because I saw Kevin's original post on Facebook about this program, and I'm glad to be here because there's one thing I want to do, and that's applaud the Weiler Automotive Group and Kevin for having the guts to try something and to be pioneers on the dealership level. I know Kevin mentioned before that there's a few other dealers that are doing this. I don't know of any of the others currently. But that's one thing we're doing. Like, look at us, guys. We're all looking at this and we're saying, well, this could go wrong, that could go wrong, and yeah, things could go wrong with it, without a doubt. But how about before we start to say that what could go wrong, let's give a round of applause to the group for even having the guts to do this in the first place. Because I know a lot of dealers, and I don't think I know one off the top of my head who would say, yeah, well, let's give this a shot. Yeah, I
agree.
So
that's Kevin Fry for you, man. Kevin Fry. That's you always bringing it like you're bringing it like that every single time, man. You don't do anything halfway. So hats off to you. By the way, we had a comment from a there's a friend of ours, Dave, here local. He's a real estate agent, a very successful realtor, Gary James Knight. He just said this is Netflix for cars. It solves all of the problems that consumers are having with car buying. The value proposition is unmatched. This is the guy who's not in the car business, but he buys cars. And that's his opinion of it right there, Kevin. So you got a fan right there from the start of someone who's not in the business just watching right now. So
absolutely, and
look, with me being in the business, I drive somewhere in the vicinity of 25 to 30,000 miles a year. So something like, as a consumer, something like this is absolutely fantastic. If I lived in the Cincinnati area, I would have told Kevin already, hey, send me something now. Because this goes right up my alley. And yes, like I said before, there are a few. Cadillac is doing something like this. BMW, I believe, is doing something on a rental type of basis. But from a dealership perspective, I don't. Yeah, things could go wrong, but things could go wrong with every single deal that we put on the road every single day. This is not. I don't think there's any more. There's any more risk or so to say in this type of thing. But the fact that now the relationship is taken to a whole nother level between the dealer and between the customer, to where now you're allowing them not to buy one car, but you're allowing them to start a relationship with you to where you can flip from one car to another car to another car. And you know that it's not going to be that they're only going to have the, so to say, like the flip car in their family. There's going to be something else. And that gets the dealer, that gets him to just slide right in to be able to build that relationship, just for that.
Yeah.
all great points. Go ahead, Dave.
Kevin, I want to bring Brad up, but Kevin, can I ask you something? I mean, based on the info I have in front of me here, something else I'm noticing about it that could I'm just going to ask you. It says your car is delivered or select the perfect ride for your need delivered anywhere in the service area. So, I mean, you're competing with, at that point, you're competing with, some services that are being advertised heavily right now, like Carvana and things of that nature. But also, am I led to believe, Kev, that could actually possibly shorten the buying process, so to speak, or the delivery process, because a customer is more apt to make to not want to spend as much time or not need to. Is that another benefit to this at all, Kevin?
Well, it's definitely a quicker process. I mean, from the time you literally from your phone, you can apply. We get it. We see it on our end. We can do a quick approval, and from there, it's just a matter of scheduling that first delivery of the vehicle, which hopefully is only within a couple days for the first time. So from that standpoint, it can be very quick. In terms of just replacing the traditional car buying process, if you think about this from the 60,000 foot level, if you put someone into this program and they become a loyalist and love this type of service, you have taken them out of the traditional car buying process. 5 to 7 years, and they're going to go out and buy a new car. Not only that, you've taken that customer and made them yours for life if you're doing things right. I think it's important, too, to emphasize a couple things. And Frank was talking about how there's some OEM programs out there. Think about this. The OEMs are starting to do this as well, and the reason why is they want you to subscribe to their service and become loyal to their specific brand. And Porsche's the most recent to decide that they're going to do that. We, on the other hand, this ties into a core part of our culture, because Jeff Wyler, where he made his name, was an innovator of the auto mall concept, where you're not necessarily loyal to the car brand, but you're loyal to the dealership brand, which is Jeff Wyler. What we're doing here ties into that same effort. We're going to, when you subscribe with us, you become loyal to the Jeff Wyler Automotive family and our entire fleet of vehicles, not a specific make versus some of these other programs. So it's in the same line of what we're doing, but two different approaches, and perhaps I should probably say not as popular with the OEMs because of the approach we're taking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it does. And I have a question that hasn't come up yet, but I'm going to wait, and we'll go ahead and let Brad into the conversation. Brad, thanks for hanging in there. Brad Paschal, go ahead and a question or comment.
Yeah, man, I think this is amazing. It's like subscription box meets car sales. I think the thing that Kevin's always been great at is that he works for a company that really cares about their customers, and they're using technology to scale relationship. And the people that are first to that continue to build relationship over that are the people that are going to win. And on top of that, he also has a place on here where they can sell their car. So he's also getting the inventory back. If they're gonna be moving to the subscription, he's gonna have the inventory, and he gets to control that inventory that's in that pool. So if he needs to do more of one thing 1 month, he controls that inventory that's in that pool. So it's just different ways to have safeguards. There's so many safeguards set up in this program, from what I can see, to make sure that it's profitable and to make sure that the customer is getting taken care of. And, that way he can offer whatever experience the customer wants. If they want to come in there and lease a car, they can do that. If they want to come in there and purchase a car, they can do that. If they just want to sell their car, they can do that. If they want to do a subscription, they can do that. And so it's just opening up his brand to whatever way a customer wants to transact with a dealership, that's available.
Yeah, Jay, let me ask you, bring you back into the conversation. I know you brought up some challenges before, but you guys are no stranger to innovation, and took a store, you and your brother, that your father successfully built, that was a 7-desk, originally a 7-desk Ford store that was doing 70 cars a month when you guys took it over. And, at 7 desks was doing over 325 before you guys moved into your new building that can sustain that type of growth. So you guys have been doing a great job. Took a store, many don't know, at Grand Blanc that was a certified pre-owned dealership that you opened up a few years ago, where several Ford stores had closed, went out of business and failed. You guys went against the odds, bought the store, opened up a used car franchise, and we're doing over 100 vehicles. We're awarded a Mitsubishi point, and the growth and the success continues. Very sharp guys, you and Matt. And so, can you see this? And is this one of these things where the innovators like the Weiler Automotive Group obviously doing something innovative, and if it works, you said you were intrigued by it. Is this something where that dealers could even look at, and maybe even guys like you could begin to even improve upon it? Look at certain aspects of it that give you ideas on, because I know the one thing as an owner that intrigues me, period, that everyone has said is when somebody buys into your brand. When you lock somebody into your brand. I mean, we buy multiple iPhones, at our company. We have, a lot of, we have a plan through AT&T, but we buy multiple iPhones. Well, my wife, who's our CFO, this year, because we trade them in every year and we use everybody's upgrades and what have you, everybody switches upgrades, and long story short, she went on this program where now we're leasing phones, and every year now we're going to turn them in, and Apple jumped on that bandwagon. Is there innovation here, Jay, that you can glean from, ideas that you're getting on how to progressively push this car business forward?
Well, yeah, and I purposely said I was intrigued by it in the beginning because I wasn't really throwing those questions out there or comments as far as like criticism or doubt at all. It was more or less like, hey, I'd love to have these answers and look even further into it. He mentioned data. I think that's huge. I think data has exploded over the past couple of years, and we want to learn as much about consumer behavior as possible. There's an opportunity there. These people are downloading an app on their phone. I mean, who knows what they're clicking accept to, and you're now tracking. I think that in our marketplace here, we're just a little bit of an anomaly close to Flint, Michigan, that the payment that's going to have to fit the insurance and everything in it may be higher than the other alternatives that they have. And we still have people today that walk in that are just bull-nosed and just will not even consider a lease if it saves them half the payment, and what are you going to do? You're going to do whatever they want, and so I feel like we continue to try to cater to more needs for each individual person and keep them as satisfied as possible, which keeps them loyal. It's all the things we're talking about there. We've already kind of dabbled into retail rental, to see if there's any demand there. I mean, we obviously want to see if there's an opportunity here. The thing that really intrigues me, actually, and I'm sure Kevin's done all his research, sounds like they're very sharp on this whole thing, is the overall business side of it internally. So if you title these vehicles, is this now an expense that gets written off somewhere? And if you have group insurance, is the guy that used to have a high insurance rate now his total payment's less because he's part of this group insurance, and his high risk doesn't take place because of his address at home? And like my brain starts going 100 miles per hour there on what the long term is as you dig deeper and deeper. So I mean, there may be even more opportunity here, just in tax income benefits. I mean, I don't know, but it still goes to ROI. I also look at the negatives. You have people now that are delivering cars, and then he accidentally bumps into another car, because now you have people in these cars, and now what insurance is covering that? And they're driving around swapping out cars. It's going to happen. The porter is going to wreck a car, all those little things, but that all just gets deducted before the bottom line hits, and that will be measured over time. I mean, like Kevin said, he's an early adopter and he's learning, but man, is there a lot of questions. I mean, we're still learning about the automotive business today, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. And Jay, I'm glad that you started bringing those up, because all of those were the things going through my mind, talking about this internal, housekeeping, if you will. Kevin, unpack some of that for us. And then if you don't mind adding on, because Tito Washington brought it up on Facebook. It was the question I was waiting to answer. Are salesperson's commissions incorporated into this type of program? Can a salesperson sustain an income working this program? and then, if you will, address some of the questions from Jay.
My God.
Boy, I feel like I'm in a presidential debate. You guys give me like 12 questions packed into one here. Let me just give everyone a better understanding. I mean, I was one of the early people out there speaking about disruption in automotive. I know that's the sexy topic of the day, but I can tell you, I really feel a great sense of urgency about this. And one of the things I learned as a young naval officer is that in times of crisis, the worst decision is no decision at all. Amen. It is better to turn left to try to avoid that kamikaze and get hit rather than go straight and do nothing at all. So some of that is an underlying concept behind this, because I'm going to tell you now, disruption in our industry and all retail is very simple. All of the disruptors have one thing in common. They're providing more consumer-facing solutions to the consumers that are out there. So when you were talking about resolutions earlier, I will give the resolution that every auto dealer on this session should have, and that is this. For every single thing you do in 2018, you should ask yourself this question: does this make us more consumer-facing? That's how you're going to beat disruption. And I can tell you that in the last 10 years, I have never worked harder than I have in the last 3 to 4 months. This has reignited my passion. Jay is right. I mean, I wake up at 2 and 3 a.m. with the 573 different angles that automotive subscription provides. But we're taking a measured risk to go out there and provide a mobility-based solution, because it's not going to be for everybody. It's just one of the mobility solutions we're providing to our consumers. But we feel at the end of the day, regardless of whether this works or not, the lessons we are going to learn are going to be invaluable. And one of the key things that I'm convinced of in our future market is that fleet is the future. And the fleet lessons that you learn from doing this really are incredible. I mean, I don't know how much more to say than that. So,
yeah,
gentlemen, let me jump in with a little something here, because and let me I hate to be cliche, but let me get more frank about this, because as we're talking, I wrote a little list out here, and I'm looking for negatives, right? Mm-hmm. But I can't find any. I can't find any besides the normal day-to-day business. Mm-hmm. Like Mr. Lasco said before, a porter's going to smash up a car or something like that. Guys, I smashed up 2 demos when I was a salesperson. Okay, so that type of thing, that type of thing is going to wind up happening. But rewind this and go all the way back to the beginning, right? So you're going to have to take new cars out of your inventory and put them into this, let's call it a flip fleet, right? Mm-hmm. So now you've got new cars that you're reporting sold. You're RDRing these cars sold. Yes, you're going to wind up titling them in the subscription company, but you've got RDRs going in. You've got cars being reported sold. You're earning more turn on inventory. You're freeing up floor plan, right? Good so far, right? Anybody have anything negative to say about that? Selling more cars? No, of course not. Okay, number two, you're starting a whole different facet of relationship between the customer and between the dealership. Yeah. And all of us at every conference, we're all talking about how we're going to enhance and how we're going to disrupt and all those bullshit words. But no matter what, it comes down to the same thing, is that the relationship between the customer and the dealer needs to be preserved. Number one. Number two, it needs to be enhanced, or we're all done. We're not going to be talking about, we're not going to be talking about this anymore, because we're not going to be talking. We're all going to be wind up doing something else, Mm-hmm. Number three, through the process, the dealer gets to monitor the vehicle's condition. So the car's coming back, techs are looking at it. I'm sure there's going to be some type of a check-in and check-out type of a procedure for these cars when they come in off of a flip and before they go back out. So the dealer has control of the condition of the car the whole time. There's a certain exit. There's got to be an exit strategy in this, meaning that when this 2018 Denali hits this mileage, we're pulling it out. And then when you pull it out, now the dealer has control again. You have the option to either put the car on your used car lot, you're adding used car inventory to where you're going to generate some profit, or you just sell it, you just send it to auction and you call it a day. Guys, I'm looking for
You're looking
for the bed.
Yeah, you can't.
I'm looking for the bed. I don't see anything.
Well, yeah, and let me say this, Frank, and I'm with you, and I'm a visionary by nature, and I'm probably an idealist. You know, I mean, there's what they say: pessimist, realist, optimist, idealist. Idealist is the one who says, you know, the grass is blue, and someone says no, it's not, and you know, it is. It's blue. But you know, so let me say I'm with you on that. However, I've learned in business, and I think that Kevin, you know, and anybody watching that's the proponents of this, I think you need a Jay Lasco. I think Matt is a visionary guy. Jay would probably amen that. And then you have someone like Jay who is, you know, pokes holes to a degree because you have to have that litmus test. You have to have that test because anything that I've done that's ever stood the time stamp of success has had somebody try to poke holes in it. My wife is very good at that, and I hate it. You know, I used to hate it because, but a vision. Somebody told me a long time ago, a visionary is the one that stands there in front of everybody with the binoculars and says, "Hey, see that over there? That's where we're headed." And then, if without the person that's going to point out the pothole that's 1 foot in front of you, you know, the visionary takes the step that way, falls in the pothole, and dies. You know, so I mean, I think that this is necessary. But you know, without saying, hey, it's not going to work, I think it is going to work, and I know that you know, hey, if everything that I ever did, if I ever stopped at the first time someone told me it wasn't going to work, I would have never started. But let me give a couple comments that are coming in on social media. Tony, who Cribs asked about the sustainable commission to a salesperson. Here's a perfect example of Kevin of how innovation rubs off. He says, as a frontline sales professional, these type of conversations make me want to find ways to beat these dealerships to it. Creating subscription based as a salesperson, I would like to disrupt the disruption. I like the idea, so I would try to beat the big corps to it and provide the subscription. There's innovation from a salesperson. Colin Crane, formerly with Carvana, this is something somebody might want to weigh in on. This is again just an obstacle here. He says at $850 a month subscription. In automotive, still has a long way to go. Love that Kevin Fry and the Weiler Group is taking a run at this, but it has to be much closer in value to a lease for mass adoption. That's somebody from Carvana talking about mass adoption.
I disagree with that.
Listen,
I'd like to address that.
Yeah, I disagree with that. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
First of all, Colin Crane just flipped sides for a second because everybody's been telling him how Carvana wouldn't work for so long.
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry,
Kevin.
Go
ahead, Kevin.
So he brings up a good point because this is one of the challenges we face, and that is if you're trying to compare this to a straight lease, which a lot of shoppers will. I mean, that's a natural reaction. Well, I'm paying, you know, $550 a month. Why would I pay $850, $950 a month for your program? And part of our challenge is that we need to educate them that this includes the cost of their insurance each month. This includes the cost of their maintenance, their service each month. This includes the fact that they're saving all of that time because we're handling all of that to them. And, you know, one of the people that I spoke with doing a flip, his comment to me was, you know what, I will never own a depreciating asset again in my life. I will never leave this service. This is what I've been looking for a long time. So a lot of it is, we're going to have to really re-educate our consumers. But the reality is it isn't a straight lease match up. There's a lot more involved and a lot more services being provided than just the actual car itself.
Yeah, and you know,
Kevin, real quick.
Go ahead, Brad.
Go ahead, Brad.
No, I was going to say
this is Jay. I have a quick question. And I'm thinking long term, and all I'm doing is just stirring up questions, like David said. These are not negative. I mean, it's my brain's working. So, do you think that the government will get involved at some stage with regulation? I hate to use that word,
that's a great question.
So, well, because think about it. I'm in a credit market, right? Well, who cares? Let's take the risk, like you said. Let's see how it goes. Okay. Well, the people get in over their head. They don't pay 2 months from now. So, can I go take this car to the driveway because I own the car, they don't. There's no repo laws anymore, right?
Yeah, so we've had attorneys all over this thing, and the blunt reality is, there's addressing what currently exists in the legal requirements, and then the fact is we're pushing the edge of the bubble in other areas. And I'm sure that long term they're going to try and come in and move in and regulate this. Mm-hmm. But as in any type of early innovative solution, you have to press forward, make best efforts, and if that regulation comes along, you're going to try and drive it to your advantage. Mm-hmm. But that certainly is some of the things we're looking at. And by the way, Frank, you've been probably one of the most educated people I've heard from on this, because you're saying all of the things and angles that we've looked at in consideration as we've run multiple. I bet I've run over 80 financial models before we defined a strategy. But he is right. You got to understand that when you bring a car into the fleet, you need to be identifying your exit strategy as you're bringing it in, and deciding as a model what you're going to do with that vehicle. Mm-hmm. Are you going to return it back to the dealership for resale? If you're going to do it, how are you going to depreciate that vehicle before you put it back out there in the fleet? I mean, I'll tell you right now, probably the most complex thing in this entire model is going to be the depreciation rate of the vehicles and managing that. Mm-hmm. That's about as far as I want to share on that, but it is very, very complex, but we believe we can make it work.
That's good.
Well, we're talking about I think Jay brought up something about the monthly payment on this thing at $850 a month. I could be wrong, so I'm doing this off the top of my head. I think the Cadillac one is like $1,500 a month. Okay, and of course we're talking.
This is the mid-level tier.
Right. So is $850 a month for everybody? No, obviously it's not. It's not for everybody. But when you consider you're paying $850 a month, and on a Monday you could be driving a give me a car that's mid-level, Kevin. That's in the program.
Well, we got with a Mercedes C300 class.
Okay, so you're driving a C300 on Monday, and you know that on the weekend, I'm going to reiterate your example from before. On the weekend, you're going to be taking a trip with the whole family, and you need an SUV. And the fact that a large SUV, the fact that you can just call and say, hey, I need a large SUV, and Denali meets you in the parking lot of your office or of your work or your home, wherever, and then you take that car for the weekend and everybody gets to go to Wally World together. If that ain't worth $850 a month, I don't know what is.
I think Wally World, just the comment Wally World was worth $850 a month to me. But
right off the top of my head, I wish I would have,
I love it.
Did that one. That came right out.
No, I love it. I love it. And real quick, I think there's also value in the length of the commitment. Kevin, what's the length of a commitment when I want to get on board?
It's month to month. In fact, let's say you're, 5.5 months into it and you're getting ready to go to Europe for 3 or 4 weeks. You can pause the service. There is a small fee to do that. And when you come back, you can just turn it back on. I mean, that's a lot of the beauty of it.
Kevin, is there I'm going to assume there's like a nickel initiation fee or something?
There is. Now, our first members, we waived the registration fee, but there's a $500 registration fee to come in the program. And I'll tell you, the top question we've had as we've introduced it to the market, believe it or not, is when will you have the upper tier available? Because we're going to be rolling out a $1,500 tier with higher-end cars, and that's actually the number one question we're getting right now.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
I think that. Yep. I mean, I don't see from that perspective. Again, everything else is just kinks. I think there's going to be kinks with anything, but I mean, if the kinks were worked out in a perfect world, to be able. I mean, let's just face it. The selling point is the ability to change, because the reality is people like variety, and if you're leasing your vehicle already, even though it's a 2-year lease or whatever, it is. You already realize that vehicle is not going to be yours forever. You don't want it, and I've never said I wish I had my lease longer. I always get out of my leases 6 months.
I know, right?
Anyway, yeah,
as soon as you can.
Yeah.
So let's we're gonna wrap it up in the interest of time, man. We could go. I think we could make 5 shows out of this topic. I'm so excited that someone is bringing this to the forefront. And Kevin, kudos to you. I have just as we close out, we'll start with Brad, then we'll go to Frank, and then to Jay, and then we'll have Kevin wrap it up. But one final question, Kevin, just real quick before we wrap up. But I'm guessing that another benefit is, aside from Auto Dealer Live, you're probably reaping the benefits of a lot of outside media coverage. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. And believe it or not, a lot of your activity is not so much outside media, it's your subscribers themselves. They become social media advocates to a level you can't believe. And, their friends will be like, hey, Betty, I'm noticing you're having like a different car every 2 weeks. What is going on? And the subscribers are actually selling the program for you and bringing in new people at that point. So we enjoy, I think that's one of the great parts of it as well.
Thank you. So let's go to Brad for closing comments and questions, and go ahead, Brad.
Well, I did have a question for you, Kevin. When they do a flip, do you have some sort of hashtag or social media campaign so that they can share that? Like, hey, I just flipped today. Can I share this online?
Yeah, it's hashtag Weiler Fastlane. And, remember, we just initiated this thing, so we're in a process of building that out, but that's what we're using.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you thought about running any promotions or anything like that. Hey, tag us when you flip, when you do your flip, and then
Brad
run
trying to sell a deal.
Hey,
Brad trying to sell a deal.
Yeah, just to get it out there. So, no, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just saying I thought that would be a good way to get it out there, as far as just make a hashtag when they come in to do a flip, and then everybody's seeing this, like, hey, what is this hashtag? Everybody doing these flips in this area.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's part of a club. It's part of a club. The reality is just it's a club. Somebody commented here. Daniel Green said this is the same convenience the dealers have had with dealer plates and demos.
Yeah, it's really, even you can look at it, I'm sure, socially as sort of a statusy type of thing that you're involved with as well.
Yeah.
So thank you, Brad. Did you have something else, Brad?
No, I just want to thank you guys for letting me come on, and I always look up to Kevin. He does a great job, and I just appreciate you guys, and you have a great day.
Hey, you too, Brad.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Brad.
Happy New Year, man.
Let's go to Frank for closing comments.
I'm sitting here, I'm continuing to think about this. This is, you're kind of looking at this in a way where, it's almost like a loaner car program without any OEM support, but you actually have income from these loaner cars that are out. I guess I'm Mr. Positive today. I could go on and on about why I think this is a good thing. And once again, standing applause to the Weilers to have the guts to innovate and to take the chance and to put in the time and the research and all the due diligence and to make this work. So, hats off to you guys, without a doubt.
Amen. Thanks, Frank. Hey, Happy New Year, man.
Same to you, buddy.
Jay Lasco, give us your closing comments on this. I appreciate you coming on, man, and weighing in and giving some great content.
Thanks for having me on. I mean, I was, like I said, intrigued from the very beginning when I first heard about this, and then obviously with what Weiler's done. I mean, I appreciate it just like Frank does. I mean, I think it's fantastic. I love it when people try something new every single day. I mean, we're trying to cater to customers, and they're looking for these new ways, and I think this has potential. I think that when that risk is measured correctly, and we can present it with a return. Why not? I mean, it's someone probably thought we were crazy when they said to lease the first car, and it keeps growing, and this is just bridging another gap. And if we can embrace the technology like we've all talked about, which obviously everybody is embracing, and allow that experience to go even smoother, I think that it has some huge potential. I liked the customer-facing comment, that Kevin made. I think that's huge. We're all trying to, build our relationship-based, selling, and I will continue to follow this. That's for sure.
All right, thank you, Jay.
And Kevin, if you'll close us out, man. We leaned heavily on you today. You were the star of the show, but go ahead and give your closing comments.
Well, first I'll say I enjoyed it, and thanks for having me on. What I would say is this: with the state of our industry and our market, there is no one better to disrupt automotive than dealers themselves, and we can do that with strong leadership. I encourage dealers to not be afraid to innovate. Whatever you do, don't just do nothing and continue doing business as you always have. You should be driving to become more consumer-facing. Even with what we're doing with Weiler Fastlane, we have several other major initiatives. I believe we're the first in the country. We're developing augmented reality in-house, and we have it in the showroom to prevent showrooming. We introduced virtual reality last week, the first in our market. We partnered with FlowFound, and there's just a lot of different angles. But at the end of the day, I take very serious my role that I want to be an agent of positive change in this industry. And I've got a lot of respect for the people on this call, for people like Colin Crane that's out there contributing as well. All of us can make automotive together.
Good.
Some automotive better together.
Love it. Make automotive great again. All right, I love it, man. And thank you so much for coming on, guys. Great topic. Congratulations to the Weiler Automotive Group with the Fastlane program. Hashtag FastlaneFlip. And Happy New Year, everyone. I appreciate you coming on.
Happy New Year. Thanks.
All right, guys. So, Dave, man, great topic, great show. The show was carried really with one specific topic going back and forth here because I think it opened up a lot of just thought process. And I think that you go, well, how can you make a whole show about one particular, lane, no pun intended, that one dealer is doing, or a few dealers, a handful are doing. And here's where I'd like to answer my own hypothetical question that you may be having out there. I think that the underlining ideas or thought process that I received out of this is, how can I make my customers for life? How can I brand how can I make my brand stand in the ideas to customers? How can I cause a subscription mentality, so to speak, where even if they're leasing a vehicle or buying a vehicle, right, they're my customers? Because the statistics show, NADA statistics show that 67% of customers would purchase a vehicle from the dealership that they purchased from, but only 33% do.
Yeah.
And the 33% do because only 10% of the dealers out there effectively mine their customers or manage their customers. And that's where this whole thing is. I think that the whole underlying idea is, how can I work not just harder, but can I work smarter? Can I take this concept and make 2018 a year that I ensure that my customers are taken care of, right? And they're my customers every time they go to spend money on a product similar to mine.
Yeah, it's not just about capturing a customer, it's really about owning a customer, and that's what they're looking at. And I got to tell you, Dave, you said, how can we make one show out of this one topic? I guarantee you nobody out there watching was thinking that today, because we could make 4 shows out of this topic. Because, and I'll say this, because we heard it even from dealers and our expert consultants that were on the panel. Look, this car business has been starving for this. I've been waiting, watching dealers. Someone's going to do something. Yeah. Someone's going to do something different than the same old, same old. And this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and one of the things is we really appreciate you guys being with us today. And one of the things I will say that Kevin said a lot, and he said a lot of great stuff, but one of the things you don't want to miss, and you may want to write this down or make sure that you put this mentally as a note in your mind. He just recently said at the very end of the show, he said that dealers need to be the disruptors. And I'm going to tell you something, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to disrupt the auto industry. And I've often said, I'm not that any of these ideas, not this idea, but any of the ideas that we've talked about, anything that's out there is not a good idea. But I've often said, even about Carvana, listen, the concept and the idea is obviously not a bad idea.
Right.
But the thing I've always said about it, because it caters, it's used car driven, because there's the OEMs aren't involved in part of it. So guess what? If it's going to really happen, it would have to happen on a new car level, right?
Yep.
Because a new car oval, a new car badge, a new car logo, emblem is what drives that customer in, even if they buy used. It validates them in the customer's mind. Let's just all face it. And so I'll say that a dealer could become an e-commerce dealer and operate, and so the dealers need to be the disruptors. And that's what I love about what the Weiler Automotive Group's doing. Whether you love it, like it, hate it, the bottom line is, this is a dealership that's disrupting, and they're smart. And we'll see. Looking forward to a little bit of an update at the end of the first quarter with Kevin Fry.
We'll see how it goes.
Boom.
Great show.
2018, it starts right now. Right now, the deposit, what you put in today, is a down payment, is an investment, is a seed, is a deposit into 2018. Don't you dare wait until Monday. If you don't do it today, you won't do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Come on.
Probably won't see you guys till next year, by the way.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole year.
All right.